I'm going to read the description that went out for today's message. It says, William is going to share a message on recognizing the beauty, abundance, and prosperity already present in our lives. Rather than chasing something outside of us, this talk invites us to shift in perspective, seeing prosperity as a way of living, rooted in appreciation and awareness. As we begin to notice the richness in our relationships, our health, our community, and even in our smallest moments, life opens a new way. Join us in exploring what it means to live from the present moment of abundance and to embody prosperity from the inside out. It's been said in many spiritual traditions that in order to really live, we must first die. It's been said in many pop songs that you don't know what you have until it's gone. And fortunately, I say fortunately, although many times in my life I felt like it was unfortunately, I've lost what I had. I've been so caught up that I lost sight of what I had. I've had times where I felt stripped naked. There's a time that's really poignant for me I would like to share with you. Do I have your consent in sharing this with you? So, goodness sakes, I remember being a little kid and my parents were just like, they were adult scared little kids, and they had, my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was one of those mothers who went from, the doctor prescribed her Percocets and Percodans, so I grew up almost feral. And I remember making a blood oath swear to God, and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a dad, and I'm going to be the dad that I wish I had. And I became a dad. I was stoked to be a dad. And we had Irish twins, so my sons were 14 months apart. And when one was 2 and one was 3 months, 3.5, I became a single dad. And I remember feeling really betrayed and really heartbroken, but I had my babies, and I wasn't going anywhere. And I remember I was working nights, working 5-6 nights a week, and I had a lot of help from my family. I had my mom or my dad would come over, and I would have to go pick my mom and dad up and bring them over to my house and get everything ready for the kids, and then I would go to work at night. And I would come home, 5 or 6 in the morning, and I would take my mom and dad home, I'd take the kids to daycare, and then I would come home and crash until 1 or 2, and then I would get up and go pick the kids up from daycare and have the afternoon with them. And those were hard times. Those were hard times. I was living on a series of naps. I felt like there wasn't much left. In some ways, I was going through the motions, but it was really important to me to hold it down. And usually I would pick them up from daycare, and we would come home, and we had a routine. So we'd come home, and I'd make grilled cheese sandwiches. We'd have grilled cheese sandwiches and top ramen for lunch every day. That's what I could do. And I would burn those goddamn grilled cheese sandwiches every day. I was like the world's worst multitasker. And I tried so hard to make grilled cheese sandwiches that weren't burnt. And I'll never forget the day I made the most perfect golden brown grilled cheese with the cheese like oozing out the edges. And I walked up and I presented these grilled cheese sandwiches to my sons, and I stood back in my domestic glory. And my sons took one look at these grilled cheese sandwiches and one look at me as if to say, "What the hell is this, Dad? These aren't done. Take them back." And my younger son, Lauren, we found out later that Lauren was autistic. My younger son, Lauren, so as I have them in the afternoon and I'm trying to clean house, I'm trying to do laundry, I'm trying to do the best I can, The easiest thing for Lauren was if we would make a Thomas the Tank train set, I could get him going on this train set, and he would just play. He would just be there playing on his train set. So that was a goal of mine, was to get and build a train set. So I would tear myself away from everything else and sit down and be with him, and we would set up the train set, and then Lauren would be good, and then I could get stuff done. And Lauren started saying, "Swappy," and I got dishes going. I'm trying to sweep. I'm trying to keep the house in order. That was really important for me, to keep the house in order, to give them a better life than I had. And he would say, "Swappy." So this was over, a few days. I would be he'd go, "Swappy, Daddy," and I come back, he'd just look at him and say, "Swappy, Daddy," and I'm like, "Okay, Swappy, right on, cool, Swappy." And, it was a few days. And I'm like, "What do you mean, Swappy?" He just says, "Swappy, Daddy, Swappy." Okay, great, I'm going on. And then finally I'm saying, "Okay, I want to know what Swappy means." Swappy. And I'm sitting there with him, and he's like, "Swappy, Daddy, so happy you made a train track with me." Swappy, Daddy. And I remember, goodness sakes, I remember just breaking down in that moment, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, the choice moment in his day is when I take a hurried 15, 20 minutes out and make trains with him. And I'm so caught up and worried in my own betrayal and heartbreak and duties that I'm missing the preciousness that my sons are right now. I'm missing how precious that is. Just recently, I had a picture of my daughter come up when she was 5, and I was maxed out and overwhelmed when she was 5. The girl never stopped talking. There'd be times like, "Would you please stop talking?" And I'm seeing this picture of her, and she's holding her teddy bear, and she's looking up at me, and I just broke down then, too. It's like that we have beauty in our lives right now that we're not even noticing. We have abundance in our life right now that we have privileges right now that we're not even noticing. I got sober a little over 13 years ago. And I remember my mindset was so negative. In most of my life, I grew up with a scarcity. There was a time where I bought a house at 22. I had a truck and a business. I had it going on. And all I could think about was someone else having more, or someone else having a nicer situation. Always comparing my situation. Even when I consider the times in my life when I really had it going on, at that time, if you visited me, I would tell you all the things that are wrong in my life, all the reasons why I can't enjoy my life. Whenever we compare ourselves to anyone else, we're losing. Whenever we compare ourselves to someone who has more, we're losing. When we can find one thing that's right in our moment, our heart begins to open. Just for an idea right now, I mean, hang on, time out. Through most generations, we didn't have hot and cold running water. Through most generations, we didn't have indoor plumbing. I think I looked it up. It was like in the 60s is when like 80% of the American households had indoor plumbing. We live lives that emperors and potentates and kings couldn't dream of. We can eat ice cream every day. We have epic entertainment. We have access to most of the knowledge human history has ever accumulated, and we carry it around in our pocket. We live in a golden time right now. And right now in this golden time, there are people who are being bombed out of their homes. There are people who don't have relative safety. There are people who are living with sirens and spending their nights in bomb shelters and in subway tunnels. Just speaking of us here right now, we have relative peace and relative security. Most of us have more food than we need. We live with such great privilege. We have prosperity and abundance running through our lives right now. I remember when I was getting sober, I had gotten to a point where I had pretty much lost everything. Goodness sakes, I remember having a room with a mattress and a pile of dirty clothes and a pile of not so dirty clothes. And I remember I was still in a real negative way of thinking. And in many of the recovery communities, in all the recovery communities and in spiritual programs, we practice this thing called gratitude. And I remember my sponsor had me start writing down things to be grateful for. And it was really, really hard for me to do. And I would say, well, I'm grateful that I still get to spend time with my kids. I'm grateful that my kids are healthy. And my son, one of my sons was autistic, and he was also an epileptic. He had a grand mal seizure in 4th grade. And they put him on medication. And some of the side effects of this medication were rage. I mean, when he was on this medication, he had a dark, hateful look. When he was on this medication, he would say really disturbing things, like violent, disturbing things. Imagine a 5, 6, 7-year-old child saying really dark things, and those were side effects of this medication. I remember going in sometimes to pick him up from school, and everyone would look at me and go, oh, that's Lauren's dad. And I had no idea what Lauren did at school that day. But I know everyone looked at me through the shade. So even through these times, I'm trying to write down things to be grateful for. I might write down, I have clean sheets on my bed today. My car started. I always loved it when my car started. We have enough. I have enough work to get by. I have enough to pay the electric bill. Writing gratitudes when I would pay bills. I had enough money to pay rent on time this month. I have jobs coming in. The kids are healthy. I might be able to go to the dentist and get my impacted molar fixed. And as I wrote these gratitudes down, I began to train my perception to look for what's right in my life right now. Many of us coming through the generations of trauma we have just in human history, the world wars and the depressions and the Industrial Revolution, it's as though we have now been rewired to see what's wrong all the time. And we're looking for reasons to have fear, and the media feeds off that. The media feeds off of giving you something to be afraid of and then selling you a solution. It's up to us as individuals to retrain ourselves to see what's right. And the truth is, our forefathers would die in their graves again to see all the things that we have right in our lives, and yet we spend our time complaining. There are so many things we can do in this world with what we have to make things better for our community at large, to make things better for ourselves as individuals, to be able to have connections in our lives that are meaningful and worthy. Right now in ministry school, we're going through a class on spiritual counseling. As a minister, I'm learning how to be a spiritual counselor. One of the important things in this is to stay in my lane of spiritual counseling. It's not my job to give advice on mental health or finances or love relationships, but to stay in my lane of spiritual counseling. And a big part of that is grief and grieving. So for the last 4 weeks, I've been doing extensive readings on grief and grieving. It's and suicide, with children, with teenagers, with moms and dads, with grandmas and grandpas, the idea of death and grief and grieving. And I will tell you what, I am sick of grief and grieving. But as I'm doing this, the things in my life I haven't allowed myself to grieve over are coming up. But something with the hospice, there's one book on hospice, is, goodness sakes, we're doing time in a body, and that time is finite. This life is just a breath. Blink your eyes and 10 years go by. Blink your eyes and your kids grow up. Blink your eyes and your parents are aged and you're going through their things in their homes. Blink your eyes and we're now of the age where people are going through things in our homes. When they talk to people who are on the edge of death, when they're at a point where, they're reflecting on their lives, The things they see that were valuable were their relationships. The relationships in their life. The connections they shared. The memories and life experiences they share are the things of value. And yet we often forget what's really valuable. What's in our lives right now that's really valuable are our connections. To give and to receive metaphysically are the same thing. To give and receive are the same thing. If you try giving to someone and they aren't receiving it, they're not picking up, you feel empty. If someone's trying to give to you and you're not willing to receive, they feel it. When that connection of giving and receiving are met, there's a connection. In our communities, when we give to our communities, our life improves. We feel a part of, we feel we belong to. When we reach out and connect to our children or our parents and just check in on them, that connection's made, our lives become richer. In overcoming addiction, they got a group of experts on addiction together, and they had this big symposium. And one of their goals for this symposium was to find a concise definition for addiction. And the definition they came up with was addiction is the inability to soothe one's self. To walk around with this angst, this fire of fear, anxiety, of not being peace with oneself. They find a substance that works. What's interesting is for some it's alcohol, for others it's drugs. There's some people who are addicted to pornography or sex. There's people who eat styrofoam and mattress foam or suck on Sharpies. I mean, Facebook, scrolling. But it's because we're not at peace with ourselves. And one of the biggest things in that is community. Actual human community and actual time and space. In the recovery rooms, one of the biggest things is when people feel depressed or anxious or they're thinking about drinking or they're thinking about that, one of the things we push is go get involved in service. Call someone up. Find someone to help. Because we are hardwired to be part of a community. We are hardwired to be part of each other's lives. This is where we feel connected. We feel we belong. For me, the practice of gratitude and noticing what's precious in my life right now is a big part. This is a lived experience for me. To try to find a few things I'm grateful for. To try to step back and see the beauty in a given moment. And it has nothing to do with our net value. It has nothing to do with the kind of car we drive or the house we live on. Most truly, I say to you, I've been in a rundown little house, washing my chipped dishes, trying to sweep our floor that's coming apart, and stepping back and beholding the beauty of just having my daughter and sons there in the home. There are things that are important to me. I have tools in my garage that I can find. I can work on things. I can fix things. I'm respected among my peers. I've made my amends, and now I'm with my brothers and my sisters and my aunts and my uncles and my friends. I've made amends. I reach out and talk to people. When I go to sleep at night, I say my prayers and I lay down and I'm okay. I mean, that's a cherished thing. The idea of comparing, goodness sakes, there are people who have thousands and thousands of dollars wishing they had millions. And there are people with millions and millions of dollars wishing they had billions. There are people that don't think they're worthy of being loved because their teeth aren't wide enough, or they're not tall enough, or because they have fungus growing on their big toes. There are an infinite reasons to talk us out of the worthiness we are as human beings, and the worthiness we are of being loved, and the worthiness we are of giving love. And what I'm saying now is don't wait. Don't compare ourselves to others. To make a way of life of seeing what's beauty in ourselves right now, what's beauty in the world right now is a heart-opening exercise that allows us to stand in our own personal sovereignty that allows us to know the right action and the right thing to do, that allows us to love and to be loved, to be part of a community so that we're not alone, to look into the eyes of someone who's elderly and see yourself, to look in the eyes of a child and see yourself, to be willing to see the value in this because there are things in this world that are more valuable than profit, power, and property. And we live that now. That life is calling us forth to live that now and see that as being valuable. And I'm grateful you all came down today. Our theme for this month is prosperity and wealth. And I will tell you now, what is wealthy is beyond fictional numbers on a database. The wealth and the freedom we have right now, I encourage you to begin to see it and look at it and let it manifest in your lives. As we let this manifest in our lives, it has pragmatic benefits. Our cortisol levels drop. Our immune systems peak. Our executive functions come online where we're not operating out of fear anymore. Our metabolic stasis becomes healthy. Our creative abilities begin to come online. And what's altruistic and free about this is we don't have to sign up for a program. We don't have to have a degree. We don't need 4 out of 5 dentist survey to approve it. This is from the inside out. And we're worthy of nothing less than this. And so it is.